Hello, ground passers. We're in a different venue. This is not the background that I built.
It's
Nick is the same.
it's Anastasia's turn to have a vacation, guys.
I wish it was a vacation.
Oh, I've unlocked something.
It is not a vacation. It is not a vacation. It's just a bit of work. I wish it was a vacation. It's literally 24 hours, well, I guess it's more like 36 hours in California
Oof.
is what you find me in. And it just happens to fall in our window of recording. I was texting with Nick yesterday and I was like, well, so I have a window between 6:30 a.m. and like 8:30 a.m. to record on Sunday. And he was like, that doesn't work.
So Saturday.
So Saturday it is. Here we are, a little bit early recording the podcast, but that's fine because we're in the Asian swing and time doesn't make sense right now.
To the Western people, yes, it does not make sense. Like this is one of those things that's I'm just gonna put this out there for people who are maybe listening to us who are from Philippines or Japan or Korea or wherever they're listening to us from. Like we might be complaining a lot about the time zone the tennis is happening in, but we appreciate this is what it's like for you guys all the time, and we have to put up with it for
Yes.
about a month.
Yes, we have a voice note coming in a bit from someone who is in Korea and went to the Korean Open, and she follows us on Threads, and this is her experience all year round,
Yeah.
literally all year round. So it's so funny that we get to experience this for such a short amount of time. And I guess also during the Australian Open, but really like such a short amount of time. And this is like her experience for the majority of the year. So yeah, we're in the Asian swing. It's hard to kind of adjust to like time zones and when things are happening, but we're going to talk about it all. We're also going to like touch on last week's episode. If you missed it, it was a Meet the Professionals episode. We'll talk about that a bit. And also a new series that we started yesterday, What is Time? I can't even remember when we launched that series, but it's called On Tour With. We'll talk about it all when we come back. Let's roll the clip, roll the ad. uh, you can tell that I'm just off of like a plane and haven't had enough coffee yet, but we're getting there, guys. We're getting there.
Welcome to Scrambled Anastasia tries to host a podcast.
Yes, but we are getting there. Should we start a little bit, just a quick catch up on last week, because we weren't here last week. We had a fill-in episode, which is our Meet the Professional series. Now, if you're just joining us, which we do have a lot of new listeners post US Open, welcome. Thanks for joining us. But the way we structure, the season, like our usual like schedule is once a month, we have a Meet the Professionals episode to kind of give us a break. So we have 3 weeks of regular episodes, and then on the fourth week, which is usually the first week of the month, we do a Meet the Professionals episode. And last week we got to talk to Brian Garber, who is an ATP coach. He coaches Ethan Quinn, who is someone who we've talked to a bit on the pod in more sort of like formal ways, in the terms of I've talked to him at tournaments before, post match and all of that stuff. But we talked to him. Meet the Professionals is a series where we talk to all the pros who are not tennis players. What has been, Nick, your favorite Meet the Professionals episode? I think I know which one.
Easily the one that we did with Abigail Johnson back in, what was it? We recorded around about Indian Wells, but I think it came out in April.
Yeah.
But for me, it's Abigail, purely because I think the kind of the tips and tricks that she shared about what it's like being a commentator, as well as just, she is like a tennis fan who is living her dream. And that I just love speaking to her about that as well. So
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic episode. Go listen to that. That is definitely my personal favorite.
Yeah, we have now a playlist on, if you're watching or listening to our podcast on YouTube, we have a playlist called Meet the Professionals. So you can go back and listen to all the Meet the Professionals episodes on any other podcast feed. I think you can just search for it and you can like check out all the other episodes. We already have our next episode scheduled. It's going to be in October. If you know Nick McCarville, he does a lot of work around Grand Slams. One of the favorite ones that he does that I love is the AO Cinema series. Do you know that one, Nick, where he like sits with the players in
Yes.
like theater? Yeah. So we get to talk to him. I talked to him at Cincinnati, and he will be the next episode of Meet the Professional. So we're already set for October, and then we will give you a preview of the next ones as we go along. Also, we have a new Substack series because obviously we're not on the road. We won't be on the road for a long time. So didn't want the Substack to just sort of like sit fallow. If you don't know, we have a Substack called Ground Pass on Site, which I sort of document my time on site at tournaments when I'm there on the Substack. It is free to subscribe, but if you like to support Ground Pass, it's $5 a month. So decided to put on a series there because, Nick, I don't know about you, but a lot of new fans always think, oh, the US Open's over. So is tennis.
I mean, I don't know because I live in the UK, so
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people in the UK, Wimbledon is over, so tennis is over.
Yeah, so even more extreme. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of talk to a bunch of lower ranked players who the Grand Slam season is over, but for them, this is a pretty important part of the year where they can use it to gain ranking points, so they can almost try and get a better leg up when the new season starts. The first person we feature on it is Ethan Quinn, only because I've known him the longest. I first started following him when he was on the Challenger Tour in November of last year. So I've talked to him the most, and I was able to reach out to him and say, hey, do you want to do this? So it's his first time in Asia, and I was able to call him up in Chengdu, which was quite the experience because if you don't know, communication in China is pretty limited. So even calling him and making sure it connected via WhatsApp was pretty difficult, but we got it to work for the 20 minutes that we talked on the phone. And he talked about his experience, his travel over there. I wanted it to be an experience of what it was like of a player going to Asia for the first time, trying to play on tour. He's 80 in the world, trying to build up ranking points and all of that. And here's a bit of a clip of his journey from Florida in Miami all the way to Chengdu.
Correct. Yeah, left on Thursday out of Miami at 11:30 p.m.
Okay.
Kind of left a little bit earlier than maybe some other players that would be in the main draw of this first week here in Asia for the ATP events.
Yeah.
And that was partially just because, it is my first time. It is my first time adjusting to the time change. It's a 27-hour travel day. We flew from Miami to Doha to Chengdu direct. We immediately, Brian and I both try and go to the gym and make sure that we stretch, we do, a few things for me specifically, my hips are always a focus. I did a few hip mobility exercises, did a few exercises to strengthen them and make sure that they're kind of ready to go for the next day. And, the next day then we're on court for 2 hours and,
wow,
doing a full lift. And so, you don't really have any time to waste once you get here.
So I think the biggest part of this, which I actually talked to Brian, his coach, later, because I was like, this is diabolical. But how do you get off of a 27-hour plane ride and go straight to the gym? That is diabolical.
That is professional athlete. They're just built different, Anastasia. Like, I know you like your early morning workouts, and I think you're insane. So Ethan and anyone who is a tennis player is the next sort of level up. Yeah, like it doesn't surprise me. This guy's been sat down for ages. He needs to keep his body in good condition and ready.
Yeah.
Gym is probably the best place for him, but that does sound hard.
So hard. I don't know how he did it, but again, you're completely right. A professional athlete, this is what they need to do to keep their body in shape and moving. I also was very fascinated by what he was talking about with like setting his clock like on the plane already to wherever he was going, just to like make sure he was like on the same time immediately, even from the plane. So all those little tips and tricks, they're very interesting. I think it's so fascinating to hear how I feel like tennis players are professional travelers,
No, they
because
are. They
that's
have to
just,
be.
yeah, they have to be. Like, that's what they do for a living. It's just travel from place to place playing their sport. So, yeah, I hope you guys really love this series. I'm hoping to get some other players on the hook, not just Ethan. But I do want to keep the series also focused on a certain number of players. So I just don't want to stop the conversation here with Ethan. He's going to Tokyo next. So I want to catch up with him in Tokyo and see, how did Chengdu go? What are you looking forward to in Tokyo, to kind of keep that story going? So I hope you guys like it. Subscribe to the Substack to keep it going. Again, it is free to subscribe.
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting thing we've got going on that you've started up Anastasia. I think it's a brilliant kind of concept. It is a part of the world that also a lot of people who aren't tennis players really want to go to, who want to explore. Like,
Yeah.
I know my girlfriend wants to go to all the places in Asia. She's been to Vietnam. She's just gone back from Cambodia, and she's talking about her big dream is to go to Japan. Like, this is opportunity for us as fans to kind of live a little bit through that, going, oh, that's really cool. And get and sort of and live through that sort of experience of another culture, even if you are there working, because these guys are there to do a job. Like, and whilst they're in the tournament, they're going to be they're going to be working out, they're going to be warming up, they're going to be doing media, they're going to be playing matches. It's only afterwards that maybe they can enjoy things a little bit. Like, I'm going to do a plug. There's an Instagram account I've started following. I think I shared it with you, Anastasia. It was about a girlfriend of a New Zealand player who started
Yeah.
traveling with her boyfriend. She's quit her job. She's now traveling with him. See if I can find it. Her name is Ellie Mae Jelly is the name of
I'm
the
gonna link it
link
in
it.
the description. It's so
But
good.
even
It's
sort of
so
like, it's
good.
like, this is an insight. Like, apparently you can't even explore that much, because once a player finds a restaurant they know is good and they're not going to get food poisoning from, they will stay there, and they will stay there for the whole tournament, and then they will only risk trying somewhere else once they are definitively done with that tournament. So it's a different experience for those of us who might just want to travel for fun to go for, but there's opportunities in there. I do think this is actually a good segue into what happens when maybe tennis players don't necessarily take in the culture,
Yes.
rather than
Yes.
doing that, because we've almost had the other end of the spectrum happen recently, and I caught all the screenshots of it all going down, of like, of all the people, this feels like someone lost their head a little bit and did not really see the perspective of what they were saying. Anastasia, do you want to talk about it? Because I feel like you have quite strong opinions on this.
Yeah, it's just because it's really funny. I love the way you just tied that together, because part of starting on tour with was a little bit of a selfish reason, because I would love to go to Tokyo. Tokyo is like so high on the bucket list of places I would love to go to, because it just looks like such a beautiful place, and the culture and the food and everything just looks so appealing and just gorgeous, and just like you just want to explore. So then the contrast of what happened. And so if you haven't seen this, what rock are you living under, and can I join
Well,
you?
to be fair, it was big on tennis Twitter. I haven't seen it
Yes.
being kicking off on, or like any social media app, like any kind of
I actually
interior tennis social media. But I didn't see it on any major news. might be different in the US because this involved Taylor Townsend, who is an American player.
Exactly. Yeah. So because she is an American player, I definitely have seen it on the sports news here for sure. But Taylor Townsend is in Shenzhen in China for the Billie Jean King Cup, which we will talk about later in this episode. And when she got there, you know, they have all these sort of like player welcome dinners and events and media and all that stuff. And for the player dinner, they had like a buffet of different food, including a lot of Chinese delicacies, including sea cucumber and turtle and bullfrog, and all these things are Chinese delicacies. Just like you would find, I don't know, frog legs in France or any of those different delicacies in different countries. And Taylor Townsend just went off in a series of Instagram stories where she was just sort of pointing at the food and sort of saying, can you see this? Like, I can't believe this is here, in a very unfortunate and very disparaging way that I remember when I first saw the stories, I just thought, how could she be saying this? Like, I was just like, because these are public stories that were on her Instagram. And I just thought, like, how can she be saying this on her Instagram stories? This is crazy. And I put down my phone. And of course, when I came back, it had blown up and it was crazy. You know, people were rightfully so criticizing her for the things she was saying because they were very disrespectful to a culture and people, because that was also something, you know, she kept calling them these people. Like, you cannot say that. Like, that is so disrespectful to a group and culture, you know, and it was just a very, very sad moment. And I was so disappointed in Taylor. And one thing I do want to say, because you saw this online a lot, is a lot of people were trying to sort of like do the whole sort of comparison game where it's like, well, you know, and see what happened with her and, you know, with Ostapenko and whatever. These are two separate events. Do not try and be like, well, because of this, that. No, these are two separate events. What happened with her with Ostapenko in the US Open, that is one thing. This is a separate thing. Both bad in their own ways, but I just don't think we should be talking about them in the same conversations. Taylor did delete the videos and she went on her Instagram stories and she apologized. I didn't think the apology was well done, in my opinion, but that is me. I feel like it could have been, because she just didn't, like, it was so kind of, I will do better, you know. I've heard that apology before, you know, the typical I will do better and I will, you know. I just feel like there was no apology for the specific thing she did. It was just a generalization of I will just be better. I will do better. I'm sorry, you know. So it was an unfortunate event. And I think if we are going to call out Taylor Townsend for being such a great light and being such a great person, player, we also have to call out when she's wrong as well. So that's why I put it on our agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure whether to talk about it or not. I didn't know how much of a storm it caused because nobody, I was like looking at all the people talking about this are like all the people who are tennis fans and like in tennis culture.
Yeah.
If it's likely to have blown up on your newsfeed if you're kind of newer to this, or maybe if you've seen it on sports news, as you said, then yeah, we need to talk about it. We need to address what's going on. And it is just really, really unfortunate because this is a player who, yeah, okay, different instance, both wrong for different reasons, but unfortunately Taylor was on one side of both of them. And so that's why there's a little bit of a spotlight on it, as well as, you know, it is a little bit insensitive. Like, different cultures eat different foods that other people consider somewhat gross. I personally, okay, if I was in that situation, I was walking into a kind of a buffet in China of much more traditional Chinese food, because the Chinese culture does try and eat anything. Like, would I be taken aback? Yes. Would I also give it a try? Also, yes. Because, hey, if other human beings have been eating it for however long, then it's probably okay. And that's kind of how I feel about the specific thing there.
And here's the thing too, it's not only, my thing is, would I, for example, have tried any of that? Absolutely not. But then I would not have, sort of criticized someone who did.
Yeah.
Just because, I, for example, I hate pickles. I really hate pickles. I don't like, there's so many different foods that I don't like peaches, for example. Like, they're just things that I don't like. I wouldn't then criticize someone who then liked that, because it's just different tastes. You know what I mean? And if you sort of put the shoe on the other person, how would you feel if someone criticized you because of a certain food you liked? So that's the way I would have seen it. Like, when I first saw the videos, all I kept thinking was, like, Taylor, if someone came to you and said, you really suck because you like French fries, how would you feel? That's the way you should. I always tell people, just listen back to what you're saying if someone was telling it to you. And if it sounds crazy, don't say it.
Yeah. Pretty much. Pretty
But yeah.
much. I can think of other comparisons that would probably work
Yeah.
as well
Yeah.
for America and also for the UK.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Like, I'm pretty sure there's, although having said that, there's not a lot of stuff that's very specifically UK. But anyway.
Do you know the first thing I actually thought of that
Yeah.
I love, and some people are just like, I would never, a Scotch egg. I love a Scotch egg. I love a Scotch egg. And some people are like, I would never. And I was like, I don't know. It's so good.
Like, what's wrong with Scotch eggs? Like,
and if you don't know what a Scotch egg is, look it up.
Yeah. So there you go.
Okay.
That's the good and the bad of adjusting to life in Asia from a player's
Yes.
perspective. I guess now we're kind of adjusting to life in Asia from a fan's perspective as well. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, where like time zones are tough, probably more for Anastasia than for me, because if I'm thinking about if I'm thinking about my experience, and then we'll go to you. Like, I mean, I know that you've not been watching much tennis. Neither have I, because I'm halfway through the Asian tennis day when I wake up, and then it's kind of I might be able to catch a evening session on mute whilst I'm working as sort of like background noise or something, but can't actually watch what's going on. Really, can have breakfast watching a match or something like that, but that's about it. And then end of the day, I've got no tennis to watch in the evenings. So it's adjusting to that from my perspective. It's very first world tennis fan problem, let's be honest. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm dealing with. You're probably only like catching night matches when you wake up, like Billie Jean King Cup is happening at like late morning for me. So
yeah. I am lucky if. So earlier on in the tournaments, like I would be able to catch maybe 2 matches if I woke up super early. So if I was up at like 5:30 or so, and remember when there were so many rain delays in Seoul in the beginning, so a lot of their matches were pushed really, really late. So I was able to catch a few of those. But for the most part, by the time I wake up, I'm lucky if I catch a match. And like matches, even if I go to bed at midnight, a lot of times matches haven't even started. So most of the matches are literally happening while I'm asleep. So it's really tough to catch matches live. So what I've been doing is a lot of replays, a lot of sort of just catching scores and seeing if there's anything I really want to watch. But there hasn't and as you can see, I'm not home right now. So this week has been a little bit difficult with like travel, getting ready to do stuff. So I just haven't caught a lot of matches. Like I watched Emma's first match live. I watched a bunch of the early rounds of Billie Jean King Cup live, but I haven't watched a whole bunch of tennis live this week, which c'est la vie. That's just how the cookie crumbles, you know. I mentioned our listener from Threads. Her name is Jera, who is in Korea. And it's like a lot of times when you're in that time zone, people choose to just stay up and watch tennis, which is such a tough decision, but some people do that. She actually was able to send us a voice note from the Korean Open. Love when listeners send us a voice note. If you didn't know that you could do this, guys, you can totally do this. Please, if you're at a tournament, send us a voice note to groundpasspodcast@gmail.com. Tell us what it's like. Give us your little review of the tournament. So if someone wants to go to the tournament the next year, they know what to expect. We've got a ton of voice notes over the year. We play them every time we get them. But this is Jera note from the Korea Open.
The Korea Open has kicked off, and I'm here to watch for the entire week. It is held at the Seoul Olympic Park Tennis Center from September 15 to 21. One of the best things about Seoul is that it has an excellent transportation system, and there's literally a subway station within a 5-minute walk from the venue. Regarding the tickets, you can buy one ticket to watch all matches for the day, and you can purchase through this ticketing app called Fever. The cheapest ticket is 15,000 won, roughly around 11 US dollars, and the most expensive is 500,000 won, or around 360 US dollars. But to be honest, you can get really great seats near the player's bench for just $50. Practice courts are free, but they do not announce the schedule. So if you want to catch your favorite player, you have to stay at the practice courts and just be surprised by whoever pops up. And then in the venue, there are booths where you can play or just look around. There are also food stalls, and the food is good, which caters to both Korean and non-Korean preference. I also had Pimm's Coke and Pimm's Lemon Lime. Both were good too, and no, I am not drunk right now. But yeah, that's all. I'm just enjoying my time here in Korea and thought that I'd send you a voice note just to give your listeners or your viewers more information about the tournament. So yeah, till next time.
This is one of the most fun voice notes we've ever gotten. And I don't know. She says she's not drunk. I don't know. She did have you ever heard of a Pimm's Coke
Yes.
before? You have?
Yeah. It's not. You have it over here as well. Like,
Okay.
it's basically because. Okay, have you ever had Pimm's, Anastasia?
No, I
Okay.
haven't.
So, do you know what Pimm's is, or should I explain?
I know what Pimm's is, but what
Yeah.
part is the Coke
So, essentially, what happens
replacing?
is, for those who don't know, Pimm's is a spirit that's a bit like a cordial or a squash type thing. Like, it's very sweet, and but it's alcoholic, and actually very much associated with Wimbledon. Like, there's a Pimm's stand at Wimbledon on the hill that you can go and get some Pimm's from. And like, I wouldn't recommend having it straight, but you could. But typically you mix it with something. Like, typically you need a mixer with it, right? That, you've had
Okay.
sort of liqueurs or things like that, or whatever, like, that need a mixer to be able to drink it, like a gin type thing. And that's what it is. Coke is the mixer in this case. Most people would have it with
Okay.
lemonade or tonic water, but if you want the extra sugary boost, then Coke is the Coke or Pepsi or whatever it is, like cola, is a reasonable mixer. So that's what she's talking about there.
So if you are watching this on YouTube, I have inserted photos of the Korea Open that she sent me over her voice memo. I will insert here a photo of Pimm's Coke that she sent as well, because that
Nice.
is awesome. I was like, you have to send me a photo of what this is. And it's so interesting. There's like a cup of Coke, but then like a tiny little bottle of Pimm's like attached to it. You have to
Okay.
just go
Yeah.
to our YouTube and take a look at this photo because it's perfect. I might actually just make a little reel and put it on our Instagram as well. You can see this because it's so, so good. But thank you so much for that little voice note. Again, if you are at a tournament, if you're going to Tokyo, if you're going to any tournament, we love just, hearing these voice notes because I think it really does help people to kind of get a vibe of what a tournament is because we can't go to all of them. Nick and I are only two people and we cannot go to all the tournaments, but it is really nice to hear from people. What have we done? We've gotten like Marbella, this is actually the second Korea Open. We got Korea Open last year as
Yeah, I
well. They're from
remember
a
that.
different person. Yeah. But yes, send them our way. We love to hear them. Keep them coming.
Thank you so much, Jen. Like, I don't think any other voice note we've ever had has got this much attention from Anastasia. Like, I don't think we've ever done like photos over the top on the YouTube or like made a separate reel about someone's voice notes. So you are officially the most successful voice note. So this is a challenge to the rest of the listeners. Can you get yourself?
Can you beat it?
Can you get yourself Instagram like have your own reel dedicated to your voice note? Let's see how it goes. But yeah, that's exciting, and I think it's also important to, like, as I said earlier, like it's very much an us problem because it's a sign of this growing tennis community in Asia that there are fans showing up all the time for these tournaments, and we're increasingly also seeing tournaments, players from like different countries that we're used to. Like we've obviously had a load of Chinese and Japanese players, and Korean players are kind of up and coming, but none's really made a massive breakthrough yet. But we're used to seeing lots of them. But now with Alex Ayala representing the Philippines or Janice Chen representing Indonesia kind of coming through, like these tournaments are now a big deal, and it's really, really exciting that we want to see the sport grow. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
But it's just great news all around, and hopefully you'll see more content from us talking about that as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I had a video in the works that I just never got off the ground in time, but when I'm back home, I really want to do a video on Alex Ayala and Janice Jen based on their match that they played a couple of weeks ago now at this point, because I just really think it's so great to see players from these underrepresented countries who are now able to play closer to home in Asia. Because we get a lot of questions, especially on our TikTok, asking like, when are they playing? Now that, they're closer to home in Asia, people from the Philippines can make a quick trip to, for example, a Beijing or something that is much closer than, I don't know, traveling across the world to the US to watch them play. It's really great to see all these players be able to play closer to home and the fans be able to watch them closer to home. It was so nice to see Triple Z, Zhang Zhizhen back on tour, like all these great players, to see them back on the road at home. It's been really, really great to see. Let's move on to the next big thing that has been happening in this time period, because I think we can split this time period into two things: Asian swing and team events. It's just team events. Tennis just doesn't have a lot of team events, and it's known so much as a solo sport. And, you're alone on court, you're just this solo gladiator. But team events is where a lot of tennis players shine. And we didn't get to talk about Davis Cup last week because we were off. So we're going to just do a quick little Davis Cup, I mean, Nick, I don't know how you feel. Like, I loved so much of Davis Cup last week. Did you get to watch any of it, or how much of it
No,
did you watch?
I did
Oh
not.
my God.
I didn't watch any of it.
Why, Nick? Why?
A lot of it was in the wrong time zone, Anastasia.
True, true.
So that was a big problem. I think what was happening last week was not good for me in terms of being able to watch tennis either.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I heard a lot about the drama, but I didn't see much of it. because it was
Yeah.
just, it was all crammed into one weekend, which is why I've been
Yes.
enjoying
Yeah.
Billie Jean King Cup this week, which we'll get to, because it's
Yeah.
been drawn out over the week. But so honestly, I've been hearing most of what's happening from you, getting very, very excited about it and putting excited all caps posts on our social media.
Literally all caps. I'm just like, all caps.
Like Belgium, Australia really caught your imagination.
That was, I think, the Belgium Australia tie really, I think, defines what Davis Cup is about, because it truly was the definition of sort of like the big dog underdog story and the underdogs coming out on top. So the two ties that really captured my imagination, other than the fact that the US were playing in the US, which we'll come to at the end of this, but it was Spain and Denmark, and then Belgium and Australia. And in all of those, I think, based on who was playing, I think people thought Denmark was going to win because Carlos Alcaraz wasn't playing. Alejandro Davidovich Fokina wasn't playing. Granollers, who's like a top doubles player for Spain, wasn't playing as well. So they were pretty much left with their B and C team for the most part for Spain. And then when it came to Australia and Belgium, like everyone was just like, Australia has that in the bag, no problem. And they were playing in Australia. Like they were like, no problem. That's easy. And it was just so exciting to watch Belgium wrestle that away from Australia at home. Like they were the away team, and the sort of the star of all of Davis Cup was Rafael. I think it's Rafael Collignon. I think that's how you say it. He's a player. I think he's in the knees. I think he's top 100, and he defeated Alex de Minaur, who's a top 10 player. And there is a video which you can find on the Davis Cup Instagram. I will try and find it and link it. He is cramping out of, like, he is rolling on the ground, cannot get up or stand, cramping out of his mind, and still wins the match. It is insane. And I think only Davis Cup can do that. I think if he was playing any other match, I think he would have lost that match. If he was playing, I really do think if he was playing any other match, he would have lost. But I think there is something about Davis Cup, playing for a team, playing for your country, that really does bring out something else from these players. And I think it was the same thing with Spain, where, you know, they have Holger Rune, they have a good doubles team in Denmark, and Spain, they were playing at home, but they were such the underdogs, and no one was giving them a chance of winning without Carlos Alcaraz, you know, and they were like, you know what? No. And I think they were down. So Davis Cup was played over 2 weekends, and I think after the first day, they were like 2-love down to Denmark. And people were like, well, I guess that's it. And they fought their way back and ended up winning the tie by the skin of their teeth. And again, I think it's that sort of, you're playing for something bigger than yourself, that I think Davis Cup and these team events within tennis help these players almost play well above their ranking. You know? Like, don't you think?
Yes, you see it all the time. There's always so many like hero moments of these really low ranked players coming through. And I've seen, like, watching Davis Cup over the years. You know, I'm thinking of like when Denis Shapovalov first showed up, or when Cameron Norrie first showed up. Like that was where he kind of came on the scene for me, playing against the US. I'm thinking of, you just get these sort of like, oh, this guy's really low ranked, he's not going to do anything, and then suddenly it's like, no, wait, he just did.
Yeah.
And he took it to him, and like that happened a lot with the Belgium stuff. Belgium against Australia thing, that was really cool. Spain kind of showing up. Even Billie Jean King Cup, we just had this whole thing with the US sending in their quote C team to get themselves into the finals. So like, I think it's a great leveler, because there's a lot of motivation for these low ranked players to show what they can do. Because I will say this again, the reason they're low ranked is not because they're not as good, but they don't find their best as often as your Sinner or Alcaraz or your Sabalenka and Swiatek. It's a question of frequency, not ability. And quite often, these kind of events are that once a year thing. I mean, I'm champing at the bit to talk about Billie Jean King Cup. We were even seeing it a little bit this week happening with like the China at a smaller level, like not outside top 100 kind of levels. I think everyone in the Billie Jean King Cup was in the top 100, but even then, people kind of playing a bit above their ranking and making ties a bit more interesting. As we saw with China, we saw with GB today. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I will try and I wasn't very successful with Davis Cup last week, but usually I will try and tune in for those kind of things, especially if the Brits are playing, because weirdly, I think we have half a chance in those kind of scenarios for, put the hat on of impatient Brit waiting for us to win something kind of thing.
Yeah.
We have
I mean, I'm
we're
going to
fine,
let
guys.
you. Exactly. I'm going to let you jump in and talk about Billie Jean King Cup. But the last thing I will say with Davis Cup is I think this, the U.S. lost to Team Czechia, which, fair enough, are a very good team. But they lost at home in not a great way. Tiafoe didn't really play well. But I think it is a lesson for, I think, Team USA in maybe not always just trying to bring the top guys, because I think all they did was try and put in the highest ranked American players. So unfortunately, Tommy Paul and Ben Shelton, who were initially on the squad, pulled out injured. So it was Taylor Fritz, Tiafoe, and then they brought in Opelka as well. But I was like, where is Lerner Tien? Alex Mickelson? They're just so many young, hungry Americans that I feel like, just like the Belgian team or the Spanish team, who have this young, hungry group of players, would have been able to dig in and find something bigger than themselves. I feel like there would have been more fight there than the team that we had. That's just my 2 cents. I think we could have maybe put a better squad together.
Why do I get the feeling that if Anastasia was Davis Cup captain, her team would have been Alex Mickelson, Lerner Tien, Christian Harrison, and Evan King?
That would have been my team. And we would have won.
With Nishesh Basafaretti thrown in as your reserve.
Like, as an alt. We would have so won. We would have won. I'm not a betting woman. I don't bet, but I bet we would have won.
Yeah, a good chance of it. I think it's one of those things that, obviously some kind of perceived wisdom here is you go with experience of playing Davis Cup and people who've been there, done that, and know it, or hey, we should have an advantage if we put these players in.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I can't think of any young players who've been thrown into a Davis Cup environment and just completely frozen. If anything, 9 times out of 10, they step up. So why is still that fear there?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something to think about. Obviously, having said that, I know what you're saying, Anastasia. I do think if Taylor Fritz and Tommy Paul had played, they would have.
Probably. Yeah, if they were full health. Yeah.
Let's not completely dismiss guys, especially since they're...
No. Yeah. Look, I'm a Taylor Fritz believer, and he definitely was sick as well. So I'm sure if we had our full squad, they would have won. I just feel like in the alternate positions that we had, I think we could have done better with our alternate positions as well. But Billie Jean King Cup, Nick, fire away. You've been ready for this.
I've been loving Billie Jean King Cup. I know Seoul's been happening this week at the WTA. We're probably not going to talk much about it other than the voice note. Just a quick aside, the final that's happening tomorrow is Iga Swiatek against Ekaterina Alexandrova, and Iga is doing her thing. And I love Iga doing her thing, but also Billie Jean King Cup has just been delivering on so much drama elsewhere. Barbie K as well, by the way. She did the whole saving match point thing and surviving again against Emma Raducanu in Seoul. Tangent done. The Billie Jean King Cup. Okay, we start off with Italy again, the defending champions Italy against the hosts China. And you end up with 2 3-set epics, and Italy, wrong country. Italy winning to love without having to go to the doubles, without having to need Irani and Paolini. But oh my gosh, they really had to go the long way around. Like, Yuan Yue was like match point in second set, 4-love up in the third, and Elisabetta Cocciaretto clutches it out. Jasmine Paolini has to fight back against Wang Xinyu. And this is another thing, like China did pretty well without needing Zhong Qinwen, by the way.
Yeah.
To kind of go back to your earlier point. Oh gosh, who are Ukraine playing? Because my brain is drawing a blank on me.
So Ukraine were playing Kostyuk and Svitolina.
No, like Ukraine as in like their quarterfinal.
Oh, who did they play? They played wait, I know this.
I know.
Spain.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was exciting because like you had Paula Badosa coming back after injury. Like this was her comeback tournament. And you had Marta Kostyuk playing Jessica Buzash-Monero, and that first set was brutal. It was brutal. And Buzash-Monero won it, faded. I think it took too much out of her, had to retire after Kostyuk won the second set. But that match was fabulous for as long as both players were fit and firing. Like that was super competitive. And then you had Badosa, similar situation, winning the first set and then fading as the match went on against Svitolina, but showing that like, okay, she's kind of back, is Paula. Then you get the US against Kazakhstan, which did go to a deciding doubles, including like this bonkers first match with Putintseva and Navarro, which Navarro narrowly won, like deciding set tiebreak. Rybakina then upsets Pegula by ranking, obviously clash of top 10 players. It's not really an upset, but maybe the upset was how straightforward the score was. And then the doubles end up being just crazy. And that was awesome to watch. And then ironically, the one that was the most straightforward was actually Britain-Japan, which I thought was the hardest one to call out of the two ties. Like, was the most 50-51 for me. And GB ended up just completely stepping up, as they always seem to do. Like, they always seem to play better in team events and get through. Then we get the semi-finals where Jasmine Paolini gets revenge on Lina Svitolina. Like, first of all, Costa wins the opener comfortably. And then, do you remember so you're thinking Roland Garros, right?
Yes.
Jasmine Paolini about to win. Svitolina refuses to allow her, beats Paolini in the last 16 of the French Open. Paolini has reversed it. Svitolina was a set a break up and Paolini turned it around. And even then, the third set still went a bit back and forth. I think there was an exchange of breaks before Paolini got the decisive break. But Paolini set a record straight there with Svitolina. And so there was so much other drama in the midst of it. And then they needed Irani and Paolini to get the job done. And they do have the best doubles team in the mix. So if you're playing Italy, you need to get it done in the singles. Don't get it to the doubles because you're in trouble then. Not unless you're Czechia or have a bona fide solid doubles team. So they're there. They're little bit gold medalists. They always step up for their country. And then I've just watched today GB against the US, and boy, did GB push the US. I was so tempted, Anastasia, to like, can we do some kind of really stupid comedy reel for our social media where we pretended to be super into our teams? Yeah. I was like, it was the ground pass derby, and Cartel wins the first.
We could have totally done that.
Like, really great battle with Navarro, and then Bolter looked like she rattled Pegula, and a bit like she did the United Cup because Katie Bolter beat Pegula United Cup.
Yeah.
Was it this year or last year? Anyway,
I think it was this year.
Yeah.
Right? Wait, was it?
It was either 25 or 24, but
yeah.
It definitely happened, and then looks like it's going to happen again. And Pegula again does her own flip the narrative, kind of moment in a similar way to Paolini. Didn't need to go to a doubles, but both singles matches were very much in the balance. So the whole thing's just been all very tense and very exciting, and every single player has been stepping up because they really, really care about it. And this is what I love about the fact they've moved at this time of year. Is that you're getting these top players against each other, you're getting them relatively fresh, and they all really, really care about trying to do well for their country. Even a nation like GB, which comparatively had a weaker team if you just base it on rankings, which, as we have discussed, is not the main way to base your strength on, but like they gave it a good go and they were competitive with a US team that had thrown 2 top 10 players at them. So that's really good. And now you've got two really strong teams in Italy and the US in the final, which is happening tomorrow as I'm recording it. If we're releasing this on Monday, it will have happened yesterday. Sorry, we don't know what happened. But
We don't.
I'm expecting that to be good because you're going to have Navarro playing Cocciaretto, which that's a chance for Cocciaretto to really step up and see what she can do, because Navarro should be the favourite. You've then got Pegula, who apparently has never lost to Paolini in singles. So
Ooh.
that's going to be tough. So the US have an opportunity to get this done before the doubles, because if it don't, no disrespect to Townsend and Kessler, but that's going to be tough for them against Irani and Paolini. We
Yeah.
don't usually do predictions, but this is kind of this is not a prediction. This is just going to be a sense of the narrative of this is how under pressure the US are going to be to get this done as quickly as possible, because it's going to be all about confidence.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is really delivered for me. I'm loving all the drama and all the matches and how much everyone's caring about it, and all these stories that are feeding into the individual players' stories throughout the season. So yeah, that's my Billie Jean King Cup monologue done. It's great, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
That was awesome. Guys, I feel like if you're new to tennis and you maybe are more into team sports, this is kind of your opportunity to get that from tennis. Like the Davis Cup, Billie Jean King Cup, this is where the team sport kind of vibe lives within tennis. And it's really, you just see a different side of these players that you don't usually get on tour. And I really do enjoy it. At the beginning of the year, we get United Cup, which we mentioned a little bit there. And it's just, I love these. I love, love, love these tournaments, and it's really great. And Nick, that was so fabulous.
The other team event that's currently happening over this weekend in San Francisco is Laver Cup, which is
Laver Cup.
Europe versus rest of the world. And obviously, I know you have thoughts on Laver Cup, Anastasia. I've put on the notes here, is it a good finale for the US Summer Swing? Because it's technically in the US. We've had the Del Rey Davis Cup tie straight after the US Open, so you could kind of extend it into the team events. But, you know, we've been saying that the team vibe of tennis is lying with the mainstream established play for your country events. Are we saying that we're not finding this with Laver Cup? Because it seems to me that seems to be the case for a lot of fans.
For what fans?
A lot of fans.
Yes. I think,
It's different.
yes. It's different because, and here's the only reason why I would say, you know, playing for your country is a little different, only because Team World is a little US heavy, to say the least. And I get that. Like, people who criticize Team World as just Team USA and like two other countries, I get it. I really wish Team World was more worldly. Like, I wish it was more worldly and just represented a whole bunch more countries. Like, if we had an Asian player, if we had like, like literally was the world, would be great. So that I will say is why it's not really like country based in that respect. But yes, Laver Cup is happening right now in San Francisco. I really wanted to go because it was finally in the US, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go. But between this work trip, travel for the US summer swing, I was just done. I was like, I can't do anymore. I'll watch it on TV like everyone else.
That, and that would be sort of how I would feel in your situation. Although I do want to ask, because this is what we're about on Grand Pass and experiencing these events. So I think you and I have slightly different feelings about Laver Cup overall, which we can talk about. But
yes,
one of my biggest criticisms of it when it came to the UK, because it's been the UK a couple of times now, and I looked at going in 2022, especially when I heard it might have been Roger Federer's last tournament. It was going to be Roger Federer's last tournament. And I looked at the prices and I went, there's no way I can afford that. Laver Cup is one of the most ridiculously priced events I've ever seen. And I haven't checked, the US prices, but are they similar?
It's the same. It is the same. It is an expensive tournament. And it's like, and there's sessions. So it's not even like, take, for example, yesterday. So yesterday, the first singles, two singles were day sessions, and then the single double were night sessions. So those are two separate sessions. So if you wanted to see the whole day, you're buying two separate tickets. So it's it is not cheap to go to the Laver Cup. It is a commitment. And this is where Anastasia's rant is going to start. I hope you're ready. Nick did a monologue. Anastasia's going to do a rant. And it's not really, I mean, it's a rant. It's a like, whatever you want to call it. But I think what's been bothering me a lot, like in the past like week, is the typical thing that we get every single year from mostly online on like, but I see, I wanted to say only online on X, but no, I kind of see it everywhere now. Like I just see it all sorts of places. And I hear it on podcasts and everything. And it's people saying, Laver Cup, who even cares? Why do people care about Laver Cup? And also, this also kind of extends to tennis exhibitions in general. Like where people come at it with Laver Cup, they also kind of tack on tennis exhibitions in general. And for me, I'm sort of like, well, people do care. People spend their hard-earned money to go to Laver Cup and to go to tennis night out at Madison Square Garden and to go to all of these tennis exhibitions like on the off season or whatever. And then they have fun and then they enjoy it and they love it. And I don't understand why, forgive me, but it's usually like this sort of like in my mind, people who think they're like this tennis media elite who seem to know better are like, well, why are there even like tennis exhibitions? Are we not allowed to have fun things anymore? Why does everything have to be super serious? And it has to be for points, and it has to be for head to head, and there has to be consequence and like significance. I just don't understand where we stopped having fun as a sport. Or I'm coming from someone who is new to commentating on this sport. So I've always loved exhibitions. And I think before I started commenting on the sport, and almost like most fans who go to this, I just never even heard of all this sort of dissent against exhibitions and stuff. But it's really kind of, I don't know. I just think of it as maybe a fan going to Laver Cup who spent all this money, went there, and then hears someone saying, well, that's stupid. Why would you do that? It just seems very condescending, and I don't like it.
What, is it?
And I don't like when people feel like they need to police other people's way of enjoying a sport.
So people are like
what I
having to go. People are actually paying tickets to go to Laver Cup.
Yes.
Good.
Because they're sort of how do you call it? They're how do you say this? How do you say this in English? It's like they're saying, why does Laver Cup exist? Like, why is this a thing if it doesn't mean, quote unquote, mean anything?
Yeah. No, do you know what? This is more or less what I was thinking about Laver Cup when I was thinking I would probably have to talk about this on the podcast, because
Yeah.
I have conflicting feelings on Laver Cup. Like, I do think it's stupid. I do think it's overly expensive for what it is. Tennis didn't need a Ryder Cup, and we've not had an intercontinental rivalry in tennis since Borg McEnroe, really, in terms of like the top of the men's game, if you really think about it. Like women's game, a bit different, but like men's game, we haven't had that. So they don't necessarily have these two figureheads who could go clash head to head. Golf has these regular names that, can lead their teams and whatever. So there is that. However, when I have watched Laver Cup, I've had a tremendous amount of fun watching it because, Like, I love the team vibes that you get. I loved seeing the tactics being said. I loved the big three getting involved in doing that. I think it's a great fun vibe and a great exhibition in a positive sense of tennis, of like showing how good tennis can be and how much of a show it can put on. And some of the matches have been quite interesting over the years. Like, I don't hate it. I don't think it's stupid and pointless. I don't think it's pointless. I think there's a lot of positives to it, and I will enjoy it. I haven't watched any of it, by the way, because it's on a channel that I would have to pay to subscribe to in the UK, and I decided it just wasn't worth getting that for a weekend. Not when it's not a Roger Federer retirement event. Anyway, so that's kind of how I feel about it. But I agree with you that there's too much of an emphasis on, because like this is a thing. Like I know what you're saying. Like, it's the same crowd that say, why are tennis players constantly moaning about the schedule and then going to play exhibitions? And it feels like for the people who are saying this, tennis is intense because it has to be, because that's what they enjoy about it. It's the intensity of the competition. It's the intensity of the storyline, which, let's not be hypocritical, you and I both enjoy as well. A lot.
Yes.
But like, that means it has to be that all of the time. And so anything that's not that doesn't really compute, be it an exhibition or a fun team event that isn't for your country. So
Yeah.
like, I completely see what's going on there. And like, but yeah, I'm up for things being fun. I'm up for having friendly matches. I think that's where you see the human side and get to know the players properly, not just as competitors, but as people that you can kind of find something else to latch on and empathize with and support. I am very unashamedly very, very nerdy. And I don't just inhabit online tennis spaces. I also inhabit the nerdverse of whatever franchise you want to discuss. And I'm thinking what you're talking about, this sounds a lot like the sort of conversations I have with, or not I have, I've seen with other fans. I'm trying to pick a franchise that I like that is going to be a bit more mainstream, because I'm a hooligan, but I appreciate that show does not have as wide a reach as some other things that could come off that. So I'll go with Star Wars, which hopefully, Anastasia, you've at least seen.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a wide There's a that's a big audience.
The Star Wars universe has, the Star Wars fans cannot agree on anything other than the most recent films were bad.
Yeah.
But watch that dialogue change in 20 years when the kids who grew up with those films get to be adults, as happened with the prequels. But there are certain types of Star Wars fan out there, and most of them will say the best Star Wars film is kind of, there's a bit of fight of the title. The best Star Wars film is, and apologies for those who haven't seen and don't care, but this is relevant to the point, I promise, is quite often you get a lot of people saying The Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars film because it was the best made and it's got the iconic twist in it and it's pretty intense as a movie. You've got the people out there who absolutely love Revenge of the Sith, which came out in 2005 and has probably the darkest plot lines in Star Wars, which is kind of glossed over because they want to try and sell toys. But then you've got people like me, and I do love Star Wars, and a lot of my friends do as well, whose favourite Star Wars movie is A New Hope, because that's the fun one. That's for those who don't know, New Hope is the first Star Wars film. It was the one that was Star Wars before they renamed it to Star Wars New Hope retroactively.
Yeah.
So that's the fun one. That's the one that's the one most of us saw first. You know, okay, maybe if you're a certain age, you would have seen a prequel first. But anyway, that's the one that like you got introduced to Darth Vader and lightsabers and spaceships and the Millennium Falcon, and it was just a sort of a fun space adventure, sort of hopped along and didn't take itself too seriously because it was an homage to various different kind of genre pieces, but whilst trying to build something new in this cool sci-fi universe. And that's the one I like and I want to have fun with. And I don't have time to get people in. The people who like the other movies, they are very good Star Wars movies, but you're taking things way too seriously when you're getting into I want this one to be the serious and intense one that has to be all the time. Like, Star Wars used to be fun, you know that? And anything that's the more fun type of thing in Star Wars that get introduced later on always gets hit with a number of critics, and you have to wait for the people who enjoyed it as kids to grow up and say it wasn't that bad. I'm thinking of Ewoks and Jar Jar Binks. Okay, that rehabilitated. Or Porgs. that came out in one of the most
Yeah.
recent Star Wars films. So apologies if that was a massive reference to anything and no one has any idea what I'm
No,
talking.
but I kind of get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same thing in
No,
tennis.
I get that. Yeah.
Stop only
Yeah.
caring about who's going to win Grand Slams and enjoy all of tennis. And there are fun matches all the way through, including sometimes in a pointless event like Laver Cup.
Yeah. No, I told like Nick, that was actually, I know you think that was like a long tangent, but that was actually one of the most perfect explanations that I've heard of. I could not have said it better. Like that was really, really awesome because it doesn't always have to be serious. And I think also it goes to what we try to do here on Ground Pass, where we don't try and gatekeep what sort of fans come into tennis or want to come and understand tennis. Sometimes people go to Wimbledon or the US Open to wear a cute dress and take a cute photo, and they just want to enjoy the sport. They could care less if Yannick Sinner won a Grand Slam. They don't know who he is yet. They might in the future, they might slowly build up to that. But in the beginning, they're treating this as a cultural event, and kind of like Ascot. Like, I don't know what the horses are doing, but people go to Ascot to go to Ascot. Like, I don't know what the horses are doing, So I think in that respect, we don't need to always take it so seriously. Like, we can find the joy in these events. And because I do think sometimes when we do take it too seriously, that's when you kill the child inside of you who fell in love with this sport, Because when you were young, you didn't think, my favorite player only won 4 Grand Slams and I don't like this player, I don't like that player. No, you just loved the sport. You just enjoyed watching it. And sometimes I think we need to retain that childlike love for the sport and stop taking it too seriously. And that's what events like Laver Cup and exhibitions do. It's just a good time. Everyone calm down. And you know what I always say too? If you don't like it, nobody is forcing you to watch it. You can just be, oh, I don't like Laver Cup. I'm going to go just watch something else. No comments. No, like, if I don't like an event, I just don't watch it and I don't talk about it and I just move on. But anyway, that was my little rant. Laver Cup is great though.
Laver Cup.
You know what I really love about this year though, Nick, that I have to say this is the joy for me in this event is the new team captains. Like Captain Agassi and Captain Noah are my favorite parts of this year's Laver Cup because they're so different. And I knew they would be. Like Captain Noah is just chill and he's just here to just have fun and watch tennis and just watch Carlos Alcaraz do his thing. And it's all going to be great as long as Carlos Alcaraz is doing his thing. And if you don't know what the reference is, I'm going to leave links to the live podcast that Andy Roddick have been doing from like the Laver Cup. He's been doing daily live podcasts from there and he's talked to the team captains. And Yannick Noah was just like, I'm just going to let Carlos Alcaraz do what Carlos Alcaraz is going to do. And that's all that needs to happen. It's like, what's that? And on the other side of that, Andre Agassi is like going to practice, talking to the guys, strategizing. It is so different. And I like that part of it. I like that part of it a lot.
I would have thought Agassi would have been pretty chill as well. So that's interesting.
No, he is not chill. Like he is taking it so seriously.
Wow.
I'm actually kind of scared because I'm like, what if they lose?
Carlos
He's taking it.
I mean, they're playing against Carlos Alcaraz, so it's not looking good.
It's not looking great. But and you know what, too?
A US citizenship.
They really should try. They should give it a shot, and maybe that's what's going to happen. But also another thing that I think is really cute is a couple of new players, specifically Joao Fonseca and Jakub Mensik, are having so much fun with the event. Like, I feel like they love the whole idea of learning from these like legends of the sport. And like Jakub Mensik is just so happy that he got to play doubles with Carlos Alcaraz. Like, he can't stop talking about it. I feel like every interview that I've heard from him, he's like, I played doubles with Carlos Alcaraz. You know, this is something that I could never have done before, but I played doubles with Carlos Alcaraz. And I'm just like, wow, you really like Carlos Alcaraz, don't you? But it's cute. Like, these are the little moments that you just wouldn't see on the main tour. And here is Jakub Mensik fanboying over his fellow, you know, team player. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
It's amazing, especially since they're not that far apart in age as well. Really,
They're like the same age. They're like, I mean, Jakub is like he's like 19, I think.
yeah. Carlos is
But
22. Like these two could be
yeah,
at college together.
yeah. But he
Like
really,
that's. I mean, okay, there are definitely guys who are a couple of years older at college or school or whatever that like you would look up to, but you're kind of getting past the point where that's a thing. But that is interesting that that's the effect. Clearly, that's the effect that all great players have, regardless of age. And Carlos Alcaraz
yeah.
is already a great player, so don't come for me for that. Speaking of which, he's got to get on a plane fairly sharpish because he's playing in Tokyo in like,
Tomorrow?
well, I think it starts on Wednesday or something, but he'll probably get a bye, so he's probably not playing until the weekend.
Mm.
But yeah, so we're doing what's next at the moment. We've got a couple of ATP 500 events happening starting next week. Once Chengdu and Hangzhou have finished, which is like Tuesday, I think. It's the midweek timetable, so it's messing with us all. But you've got, I think it's Beijing and Tokyo. I think the talking points for me, you've got Tokyo's got Carlos Alcaraz and Beijing's got Yannick Sinner. They really didn't want to meet each other on a warm-up this time.
Yeah, they were like, no, we're good. They're like, let's just wait till the 1,000 level event. We don't need to play each other twice in Asia. We're good. We're okay. After the summer swing, see you. We need a break. We need a break in this relationship.
Sinner needs
Do
some
you
time
think
to
that's what they
figure
were
things
saying?
out.
Do you think no, but do you think that's what they said in their plan? Like when they were making their schedule and they're like, no, we need a break. We can't see each other this many times.
We can't keep seeing each other like this.
We can't do it. We can't keep meeting like this in the finals. We just can't. What's next after that, Nick?
Well, that's the ATP happening, so that's kind of your next couple of weeks covered. Also, you're only covered for a couple of weeks on the WTA because once Seoul finishes, we're off to Beijing. It's a 1,000 event for 2 weeks, or like 10 days, whatever. So it starts at the midweek. I think it's like Tuesday. It's supposed to get underway. Qualifying should start soon. The big news from it is that Sabalenka isn't playing. She seems to have picked up an injury from the US Open. So she will not be playing in Beijing, which is creating a very interesting situation because that means, I mean, depending on how things go, but Iga Swiatek's got a very good chance of closing the gap to number one if she does well in Beijing. So that's kind of the
Ooh.
top level. Yeah. So I think if she wins Seoul tomorrow and then she wins
Yeah.
Beijing, she'd be 600 points behind Arena, which would be very, very critical for WTA finals, end of season. So
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of a narrative going on there. Wuhan as well be interesting because Sabalenka's defending champion, but that is her backyard. She's never lost there. So that's a whole different, that's for way further down the conversation. But yeah, Sabalenka opens up the field a bit. Obviously depends on how Iga's feeling. But if she's motivated, that's going to be kind of the headline story. And then it's going to come down to, well, who's going to play in the final? Who's going to come through? You know, the typical WTA stuff of which one of the many, many talented players are there is going to step up. And I think we'll have some really, really good tennis to enjoy, including from plenty of sort of Asian up-and-coming players.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I'm gonna like push back this week in tennis.
Yeah.
Because usually I do this week in tennis on a Monday, but this week in tennis is going to start on a Wednesday. So
Yeah.
maybe we push back this week in tennis to a Wednesday. We'll see. Yeah, because the schedule's a little out of whack a little bit, and it just wouldn't make sense. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. Okay, so that is what is coming up this week. So now it is time. It is time for Player of the Fortnight. I gave mine up really early in this episode. Can you guess? Okay, here's a game for everyone. Stop this podcast right now. If you can guess who my Player of the Fortnight is, which I said earlier on in this podcast, give us a review and write it in the comments, or write it in the comments of this YouTube video if you can guess. And then you can come back now. And of course, it's Rafael Collignon, because he had such an epic Davis Cup. Like, it was quite possibly one of the best Davis Cup performances I've seen in a very, very long time. And, you know, other than winning the first match against, Alex de Minaur, he came back on the last day and then won against Vukic, and he was the one who kind of tied it up for Belgium and sort of clinched the tie for them. So he really came through for his team, fought through, cramps and everything, and just had such a great, great moment. Now, you could say that we should have seen this coming, because he also had a great run at the US Open just a few weeks before. But, it's tough to say with these things. And I don't think anyone would have thought he could beat Alex de Minaur. He was totally the underdog along with Belgium in this tie. So I think for his effort, for everything that he did for Davis Cup, for Belgium, he is my Player of the Fortnight on the ATP side.
Good choice. And I feel like he encapsulates everything we talked about, the beauty of team events. I also wanted to go for someone who encapsulated the beauty of team events, because of how much I've enjoyed Billie Jean King Cup. Unfortunately, none of the players I could have picked fell into our usual criteria, because most of the Billie Jean Cup players are in top 10, top 20. Like, you're seeing them on stadiums, not usually on ground passes. Almost, if GB had pulled off the upset, it was going to go to Katie Boulter, because she would have led an underdog team to a final. It didn't happen. Congratulations, Anastasia, on US's success.
Thank you.
And so then I was like, oh, who else is there? Because Seoul also didn't have, there were a couple of options, but Seoul's not really had any major grabbing stories. Like Maya Joint bageling Clara Towson was probably noteworthy. But then she didn't but then she had to deal with the eager steamroller, and nobody's doing well with that at the moment. So I was like, okay, well, who else have we got? So I've decided to go back to last week, and I actually picked someone who lost in the final, which is Janice Chen, because she lost in the Sao Paulo 250 final to Sarah Rakatamanga, who, by the way, would also be a worthy Player of the Fortnight, because kind of out of nowhere champion, unless you really know your tennis. But yeah, Janice Chen, Indonesian, graduated from college last year. She's already racked up a bunch of ITF titles, and obviously had that breakout qualification run at the US Open, got to the second round, lost to Emma Raducanu, had a great Sao Paulo, beat Alex Ayala in that tournament. Alex was one of the favourites. And yeah, I think Janice has got a really exciting game, really great striker of the ball, and she's opening up again tennis fandom to a new part of the world, which is Indonesia. So I'm excited to see where that goes. She's going to be one of the stars of the Asian swing. So I think let's pick a player who highlights what's great about the Asian swing, as we've also discussed on this podcast. So I'm going with Janice Chen.
Really great pick. Really great pick. Her run to the final in Sao Paulo was one of my favorite runs so far this year to a final. I watched all of her matches except for the final, and then she lost. It's my fault. I should have just watched the final. I messed up. I'm sorry, Janice. It's my fault. My bad. But yeah, no, that was really, really great pick. I really hope I can get that video done by next week and it will be up on our YouTube channel. But yeah, so guys, another great episode in the bag. Nick, this will be out tomorrow. I think we'll put this out on Sunday because the schedule's just out of whack. So we just might as well. We will be back again next week. It will be again in the middle of the first few rounds of Beijing and Tokyo. It's going to be, something's going to be happening and we will talk about it, I think, is how I see it. But Nick, it's been another great one. We will see you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.